Ladies and gentlemen, filmmakers and moviegoers alike, welcome to this week's episode of Critically Casual. I'm your host, Srekcuf5, and joining me, as always, is the magnificent DorkyDev. Say hi, Dev.
Hello.
Hello. So, obviously, today's a pretty important week. There's a lot of responsibility on us here, and, starting off strong. I know. For those of you who couldn't see, it was Dev giving me a death stare from the side of his eyes.
I didn't even give you a death stare. It was more of a side eye.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
All right.
Right, there's a difference.
There's a slight difference, I guess, maybe. So, anything you want to talk about or do before we start discussing what's going on today?
Nope. I think I'm ready to jump into it.
All right. Then let's hop right on in here. So today's episode, I have dubbed it Spider-Week. Spidey-Week. Because you know why. It's The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then we're going to go into Spider-Man Far From Home. And then we're going to wrap everything up with the news and, some wrap-up.
We might search the web for some stories.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what's going to swing in. We're bad at this. Any objections here before we start going in and reviewing?
Nope, let's just jump into the
Let's just swing into action.
something quite amazing.
Yes, something quite amazing indeed. The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
So
This film is still, in my opinion, better than what people give it credit for.
yeah,
Start out by saying that.
So I hadn't seen it before, and I'll be honest, it was pretty okay. It was better than I thought based on all the crap that I've heard on the internet. So it's okay. It's okay.
I'm not saying it's not. It's nowhere. It's probably. I don't know if it ties with or is slightly better or slightly worse than Spider-Man 3.
The original Spider-Man 3, huh?
The only Spider-Man 3.
We don't know that yet.
At this point in time.
I'm being optimistic for the future, and I don't know. Yes, the only Spider-Man at this time. So, I don't know. Like, when I think of this movie, because I just got done watching it about half an hour ago, and I don't know how it's been sitting with me in all honesty. Like, it's an okay Spider-Man movie, I guess. All in all, I'd probably have to say, like always, there's too many villains. Because too much story to go around and what's happening. They had to try, like, it's okay. It's put together all right, but I still feel like there's too much in there and they could have focused on certain things better.
Well, I'll say this. I don't even think it's the too many villains problem. Because we've had films with a lot of villains that do well. Mm-hmm. Having too many villains, I don't think, is the problem.
Okay, then it's too many storylines.
That's, I think, its issue. Like, if one of the villains was replaced with the lizard from the previous film,
Mm-hmm.
having been already established, you can give the other character a little bit more development.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, in all honesty, I think Electro's fucking cool in this film.
Oh yeah, I liked what Electro did in this movie. He was intense.
He was lame as hell in some aspects.
I'm trying to figure out what this little thing above my head is right there.
I don't know. It's behind you somewhere.
I know, and I'm trying to figure out how. There's a green screen, and then there's nothing.
On.
What about here? What the hell is it? How far back is it?
It's way back there.
What the hell is it? It's distracting the hell out of me.
It's not distracting anyone else.
Fixed.
Jesus Christ, man.
Oh.
No, and in my opinion, Electro's all right. He's got really weird motives.
Yeah, I'll give
but
you
an
that.
awesome design.
I thought he was awesome until he put on the costume.
The whole suit
Yeah, the
piece
whole
of it.
suit. Like once he had
I'll
on,
agree with that as well.
yeah, once he put on the whole suit, I was like, "Are we watching Fantastic Four?"
His suit's a little off. I'll admit that. Like him without the suit is more like overcharged Electro. 'Cause that's what they went with. Is kind of like the overcharged or like Ultimate Spider-Man Electro design. Which they did that with the Rhino as well, with Ultimate Spider-Man style, with being a mech suit, not just a man in a Rhino suit who's just really big. It's it's off and on, and I mean, most of these people I think gave it their all with what they were given.
Absolutely, I would not disagree with that in any way.
But the other problem too is that some of it is just not good enough, just writing wise. The film just doesn't do everything it should for a Spider-Man film.
Like it had promise. It definitely did. But for some reason, somewhere in there, it kind of just got like muddled halfway in between with everything that they wanted to do. Like they wanted to be like the first people to give a cinematic origin to like Peter's parents. They wanted to have a really interesting villain. They wanted to have
two interesting villains,
and then they wanted to have an interesting like romance plot, and like it's just that they put too much in
and
there.
an interesting friend dynamic.
Yeah, like they wanted to show like the difficulties, I think, and what it was to be Spider-Man for him in this movie. That's kind of what I was getting, because they showed like the tedium and the monotony and the like the unforgivingness of it, like, and how like just sore he felt after doing it. But at the same time, they don't really explore that either. So it's hard to say what entirely goes on, because there's just a lot going on with this film. What
Also, Spider-Man's not even in it for that much.
I don't really like. I personally don't find like so it's a weird complaint with Spider-Man, in my opinion, when it comes to superhero movies. Like, how can there not be enough of a hero if no matter what that movie's about them?
Well, in the sense that, like, in a good comparison will be to the current Spider-Man films.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even throw into the Spider-Verse in there, which is still arguably the best Spider-Man film, but it's in a league of its own. It's completely different, and
Completely different.
it's just it's a league of its own. But there's a balance.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ever get too much Peter Parker time or ever too much Spider-Man time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It never feels like it's like weighted down by one or the other.
Okay. Like,
and it balances each other, because it's two personas,
okay.
and you've got to have the balance between the two.
Mm-hmm. With a lot of the complaints I had seen online, especially for this movie, was that like people said there wasn't enough Spider-Man, and
Well, in the beginning of the film, it's the startup chase scene, right?
yeah,
When's the next time he's actually Spider-Manning?
the next time he actually suits up the Spider-Man in this movie,
Like not just suiting up. I'm
Like,
talking about
actually
like
does Spider-Man
actually
stuff?
Spider-Man stuff. Because like he does suit up and helps the kid,
Mhm.
and does like that like montage of him taking off the suit because different fights
yeah,
he had.
but
But I don't know if that one counts too much,
No, I
because
get
you don't
you.
really see him Spider-Manning.
we don't get to see him swing into action and stuff until almost the end of the second act into the third, right before right after the escape, I think.
No, it's Times Square.
Okay.
So about the
when he
second,
shows
like about second act.
Yeah.
Like there's an entire like third of the movie, almost half the film, without Spider-Man. And then that scene happens, and then it's another long break in between Spider-Man.
I get
it goes from that scene to the end. There's only really 3 Spider-Man moments.
Okay. But I kind of don't really see, like, this is the biggest hero where I don't see, like, not seeing many Spider-Manning as a valid complaint for some reason. Because Spider-Man, a lot of his charm and his appeal is the Peter Parker side of him. And we get a lot of story and development to that. So we still are getting Spider-Man. We're not getting the Spider-Man action, but we're getting a different kind of Spider-Man story. It's a character-driven one rather than an action-driven one.
Can I counter you with Homecoming?
Sure. Yes.
Which does both.
It does do them better. Far better, yes. But this is just
you get plenty of Spider-Man scenes throughout the film, while also building the Peter Parker scenes and melding them together really well.
Especially in the next movie, I want to talk about that.
Yeah. Both, like, the MCU Spider-Man melds both the Peter Parker stuff and the Spider-Man stuff in a way that makes them feel connected. Truly connected. And I'll talk about Homecoming a little bit, is that, like, a good way of putting it is, like, we see the scene where there's the guys robbing the ATMs, and when that scene goes awry and that shop gets destroyed, we are established that shop means something to Peter already. So he immediately runs over there, because that's his home.
Yeah.
This is his home turf. And we see, scenes with Tony Stark and Peter talking and stuff like that, and it's just, all of it just feels like they're one and the same. They don't feel like separate characters, if that makes sense. While I would almost say that Spider-Man and Peter Parker in the original trilogy and in this series feel sort of like separate people.
Okay.
In the sense that, like, I don't know how else to put it, because, like, even a little bit, it's just, or like, they don't feel separate enough, is actually a good way of putting it, because Peter in Homecoming is still like the nerd that he is, but as Spider-Man, he's a little bit more quippy, he's a little bit more able to make jokes, he's still getting used to being Spider-Man, so he still makes mistakes and is still clumsy, but especially with his words, but he's still more comfortable as Spider-Man through Homecoming.
I get that.
While in this one, there is no real difference between Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Like, there isn't a scene of, like, him being... He's always got the same attitude no matter what. He's always quippy. He's always kind of... No offense. Really rewatching it. Man, this Peter Parker's kind of a dick.
No, he very much is. Andrew Garfield's a bad Peter Parker. He's a fine Spider-Man, but he's a bad Peter Parker.
It just solidified my opinion that Tobey Maguire was a... Well, I don't even want to say Tobey Maguire is a good Peter Parker anymore, because he's just...
He's the middle grounds now. Tobey Maguire is just kind of the middle of the road. But it's weird, because he's a little bit on, like, the bad side of the middle of the road.
It's weird, like, looking back at this film, which is really only a few years old. Like, this came out in 2014, right? I think.
This one, yeah, 2014.
Which is nuts to me, because, like, let me double check when Civil War came out. I think was 2016 was Civil War. Double checking that real quick. I keep grabbing the wrong thing. IMDb. Civil War 2016, yeah. 2 years later, we would get introduced to the best Spider-Man so far. Like, it's just, it's weird to think about that, like, the dynamic between, or the change of studio as well has made such a difference on the character.
I mean, when you said that something that you said brought up a thought of mine real fast, and then I'm going to get back to your comment there. The initial thought of mine was, like, when they brought up they made Tom Holland 2 years later, and he's the best Spider-Man. My thought as well was wasn't he considered like the most controversial as well, especially because he was the third reboot of the hero.
And only 2 years after it.
Yeah.
No, there was a lot of controversy about it. It was like, why not bring in Andrew Garfield? Because there were still people who were like, this should get a third movie and go through with it. I'm still on the fence about it. I still think a third could have maybe been okay, but at the same time, this one wasn't. I from a studio standpoint, I understand why this one didn't merit it.
Yeah. With Andrew Garfield, like I could see him doing one more Spider-Man, absolutely, and I think it would be okay, but it has to be mostly a Spider-Man movie. It can't be much of a Peter Parker movie because whenever they're doing the Spider-Man scenes, like I really enjoyed the fight scene with Electro towards the end with the power plant. I believe it is. Like that was a really cool scene, and how they did the cinematography and stuff there was cool as well. But then they immediately ruined it with what came after.
I don't know if that's ruining it. I don't know if it's much of a spoiler anymore.
I mean, yes, everything. No, so I'm not talking about that far in advance being ruined. Like I'm talking about the arrival of.
Yeah. Are you talking Goblin?
Yeah, when Goblin shows up, like. When Goblin shows up, I was like, the movie was already ended at that point. He just didn't need to exist anymore. And then they just added it in to add in some more, like, I felt like they just felt like they needed to throw in something to make people invested in this movie.
Well, I feel like, I don't know how to put it. It just, like, the problem with Goblin in this film, he's literally thrown into the film to do the one thing from the comics.
Yes.
That's why he's in this film.
I think I think what they needed is they needed something to get Spider-Man from the beginning of his emotional arc to the end of his emotional arc, and the best way to do that was to do whatever they did with Gwen Stacy. And they are like, all right, so how do we keep it true to form? Okay, we throw in the Goblin. Okay, now what? And then they just tried to throw in the Goblin to the story they had.
Yeah, it didn't quite, like, he didn't quite fit in at all. Which kind of sucks because, like, the Goblin's a great character in the comics. And challenges Peter in ways that no other person ever could. Mm-hmm. It's just it's weird to think about how this one went with that, because it's just he literally shows up the last possible moment,
and is on screen for 2 minutes, maybe.
You're not far off.
Like they did the dirty with the Goblin. Like honestly, if they just cut out one of the stories, like one of the, like either the Goblin's plot line or they trimmed out the love plot a little bit more, I think it would have been better.
Dude, I forgot how unnecessarily long, like, back and forth that love plot is. Like, damn. it gives I always thought it was better than Mary Jane and Peter Parker one in the original trilogy, because I also don't like that love story.
That was a terrible. They have no on-screen chemistry, those two.
This one, at least they had on-screen chemistry, and all part of it helped that they were actually, I think they were still dating at this point of this film. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. I know I think they dated on the first one at least. Or they met each other, started dating, and were dating during the second one. I can't remember the exact timeline. But I remember hearing about that, and I was like, oh, so that's just going to add to their chemistry. That works, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
They had chemistry, but it's just, there's this forced ghost plot that just doesn't let that chemistry grow. This forced, like, forced Peter's Promise plotline.
A lot of me also feels like what happens to Gwen Stacy when it happens. I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible for those who don't know still somehow. Um, like whenever it happens, it almost feels like rushed, and like in a how do I explain this? Like they did not treat Gwen Stacy's character right. I think is the best way to put this. It like she kind of is dumb. Her reactions are a little over the top based on what I thought I knew about her character, and because of her exaggerations and her overreactions, that's what leads her to where she gets to.
Well, I would say that she's not dumb. She's very smart.
Exactly.
I think the problem is more that like it's situations that happen in this film happen because plot says it has to happen. And never because it makes more logical sense. And like it's a far better adaptation of Gwen than Spider-Man 3 did, which made her a ditzy airhead.
That's true.
I fucking hated that. I'll be dead honest. That shit pissed me off when I saw that because I was like, that's a very important character to the Spider-Man mythos that you're just kind of being like,
hi.
Oh, oh my god, Spider-Man kind of thing. I'm just like, you're pissing people off with that. But at the same time, I think the major problem with this is just that it doesn't have a direction that it wants to go in. It just is like, we're gonna web all this together, pun intended, and make the movie. And like the fact that Paul Giamatti, a fucking legend, if I do say so myself,
yes,
is casted in maybe 5 minutes of the film. Maybe 7 tops to play a guy in a mech suit at one point at the very end of the movie, and you never see exactly what he's doing.
Can you send that to me in a text?
Yeah. Which way?
The longer lasting one.
I know. I'm more saying it on which place should I send it to you?
No, I mean like a physical, actual text message to my cell phone.
Oh. Okay.
So I can look it up and actually see what's happening. Sorry, distracting. But no, yeah, they do a lot. They have great actors, and they throw them into weird, random things that they don't show.
Yeah. Like, this cast is good. Like, just looking at it, you have Andrew Garfield, who proves to be a good actor. Emma Stone proves to be a good actress. Mm-hmm. Jamie Foxx, who's stellar.
Yeah.
Oh, wrong scene.
Am I? What?
Dan Dehan.
Here?
I don't know. Who is in Chronicle and is great in that. Felicity Jones, who plays Felicia Hardy without the last name. Just Felicia. But as soon as it's said, it's like, it's Felicia Hardy. Felicity Jones from Rogue One, who gets maybe 2 scenes. Maybe,
yeah.
No, I know at this time she wasn't as
like of Rogue One.
Yeah, this is pre-Rogue One her. So like, it isn't, she's not gonna be the standout role, and I get that, but like, no one, and especially Paul Giamatti, who literally is in fucking 7 minutes of this goddamn film. It just feels like it wastes people. Especially seeing with the caliber that is actually in this film, especially post-film. Like, it's weird to see.
You're not wrong. They really just, So overall, I guess what we're saying right now is that they had their stories were bloated, and that they didn't properly utilize the talent that they had.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's a really good way of putting it. It's bloated and doesn't use its talent correctly. Some of the fight scenes are really cool, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and every once in a while, like, I like the CG in this movie as well. It was pretty good, except for every once in a while you get something that looked terrible for, like, Electro, or a swing that looked awkward from Spider-Man.
Yeah,
But
there's a couple of those moments.
But all in all, I'd say...
And I'll say the other thing, too, is I do like the moments of, like... I liked how they depicted some of the Spidey sense-ish moments.
Mm-hmm.
There were some moments where he moved faster than he probably should have in those scenes.
You're not wrong.
Like, and it becomes a moment of, like, and I know he's fast, but he's not like Quicksilver, where everything slows down and then he moves. That's not quite.
I don't think that's what they were trying to do. I don't think they were trying to visualize the slow motion of speed. I think that's what they were trying to do, is to visualize the Spidey sense.
Yes, but then he starts moving during it, and it becomes a
and then it
sort
reaches
of
out with the hand.
Okay, that's different. I'm more talking about when he catches the bus.
Yeah.
And when he stops the electricity at Times Square moments, he moves faster than he normally moves, which creates a uncanny valley moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've seen how fast he does normally move.
He actually had to unleash more of his power.
Yeah, and that's not how that works.
That's totally how that works now, apparently. I'm just...
No. Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem with it. It's just, like, underutilized cast and just bloated. Mm-hmm. Bloated and misdirection.
There we go. Perfect. So, Dev,
not the fun misdirection.
So, Dev, I'm going to give you 10 popcorn kernels here.
10 popcorn kernels.
Mm-hmm. How many of them would you give to The Amazing Spider-Man 2?
I'd probably still give it like a 6.5.
6.5. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's still got some cool fights and everything in it, and I do like Electro. And I appreciate that they tried to use two characters who hadn't been seen before in cinemas.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they were very mishandled.
I mean, we've seen Green Goblin before.
I'm talking about Rhino.
Oh, yeah, Rhino.
Electro.
I guess technically he was in this movie.
Yes, he was technically in this film, and that's why I'm saying he was technically he was very mishandled, and Electro has some missteps. But they did try some new things instead of just going to the previously seen, hey, let's go with Doc Ock, because he's popular.
Yeah, but he was definitely hinted at in this film, so...
Well, no, they were hinting at the Sinister Six stuff.
That's probably what the next movie would have been. Would have been him versus...
Yeah, no, they had planned a Sinister Six film, and then Spider-Man 3 was going to take it on.
And then MCU happened.
And then Amazing Spider-Man 2 happened, and it flopped. And Marvel was over here like, what if we made a Spider-Man movie?
Yeah, what if we do it for you? And then... So, that was actually something... I talked to my dad about this the other day. I was like, how many more studios do you think Disney can buy? Because at this point, there's no way Sony is going to sell back Spider-Man to the MCU. However...
No. No, there aren't.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, however, it's not impossible for Disney to just buy Sony Studios.
It is, given the fact that Sony is also an electronics company. Also, you never gave your popcorn.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay, so 6.5 rounded up. I would say it is due to the fact that Sony is also a electronics hardware store as well.
They just don't buy that portion. Like they did with Fox. They didn't buy all of Fox. They only bought Fox
they bought what Fox was willing to sell.
So like
I don't see Sony doing that because Sony also does make money from their animated features and their other films.
So it's not gonna be like, it's gonna be a hostile corporate takeover. Ah, crap! I hit the wrong button again. It's not gonna be a casual trade. This is Disney we're talking about.
Well, my other thing to it as well is that I wouldn't mind if they kept the partnership they have right now, where they're two separate studios, but they agree to work on this series of films. But there's really only one more film in the trilogy under the deal.
Yeah.
And it makes me upset because I want this Spider-Man to stay in the MCU.
People are wondering, like, there are a lot of theories on what's going to happen with this new Spider-Man. But let's do news and wrap up. Let's talk about future theories.
Okay, yeah, we can do that there. We've got a film to talk about.
Yeah, we've got a film to talk about. So yeah, anyone who's watching us, if you have anything you want to ask us about the other movie, feel free to. While we hop in and start talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. So,
this film was fun.
It was very fun. My favorite thing I have to say about this movie was the fact that it was like a road trip movie where you got to, like, the characters got to know each other better a little bit, and it was really teenage love, and it was cute. Like, this was an adorably good movie with moments that I enjoyed quite a bit.
I agree. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Especially every moment with what's the director, what's his name?
Jon Favreau?
Yes.
He's not the actual director of this,
No,
but
yeah. I was trying to get to the director of Iron Man without saying Happy Hogan. Like, I was trying to say, I enjoyed every single scene that Jon Favreau was in.
Happy Hogan as a character is fantastic in the MCU. I think at this point he's kind of because Coulson was kind of the glue at one point. I think Happy's the glue now.
I don't think so necessarily. Like, Happy is just a surrogate father figure at this point.
Well, I think he's kind of the glue in the sense that, like, he's a character that can connect with anyone else, in my opinion. Like, you could throw any other hero with him, and they would be, like, given the circumstances of Endgame, and he'd be able to help them through it. Because he's one of the ones who are the most affected by it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hi, Chasing. Thanks for stopping by. I don't necessarily think so, because I'm pretty sure, doesn't Happy technically only work for Tony?
Yeah, but he gets to meet most of them.
Yeah. Like maybe it could be possible that he could be the character that holds all of their emotions together, but I don't think that's the role.
Well, I can see him being the new Coulson. Yeah. I can see him being the new Coulson. That's what I'm trying to say. Because, like, there are talks of Young Avengers being the next Avengers film.
Oh. God, really? Okay.
Hey, Young Avengers is a great set, dude. Just go into it. And in this universe, I would see it being Hank Pym, or it would be Scott Lang's daughter, Cassidy. And she gets her powers, inevitably. Mm-hmm. It would be...
Dude, all that radiation and junk.
And no, Happy was not snapped. He survived it. He was one of the... If you saw the posters upon release, he was one of the ones who had a colored poster, so that means he lived.
Speaking of which, since we're now... Okay, never mind. Keep talking. Then we're going to talk about the snap.
You'll have Hulkling, I would guess, who has the ability to change form, and has a big green body.
Okay.
And probably a few others.
So Bruce Banner did a thing?
No, it's not Bruce Banner.
I mean, Hulkling...
It's a different person.
Okay. I understand that it's a different person, but is it not his child, or is it just
No.
gamma radiation somehow affected?
I don't even remember if Hulkling actually has gamma radiation or if he's an alien. Hold on, let me double check.
Okay, unimportant all in all when it comes to Spider-Man: Far From Home, but
No, but you know, he has shape-shifting abilities, and he mimics the Hulk.
Okay.
He's a Skrull, it looks like.
Oh, God. They're everywhere.
Hey, and it would work.
Yeah, no, it does work.
Hulkling,
I mean, they get their powers when they shapeshift into them, so...
After a certain point, it's not something that they have the ability to do right now. But in the Fantastic Four mythos, like, there's, like, Super Skrull and stuff like that who gain abilities and stuff like that due to experimentation and such. It's great. But like I could see Happy being that Coulson figure for them.
It's a possibility, but
without the Coulsoning happening.
Coulsoning. I think that all really depends on who like the group is going to be, because I don't think Happy is going to be able to get any older people to agree with him, like Coulson.
No, which is why the Young Avengers works.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see. Maybe I think you're just being too fan theory, which we are supposed to talk about in later on.
Hey, you talked about Happy Hogan. Okay, I'm sorry.
Exactly. By saying I liked what he did in this movie.
Fair. But no, and in my opinion, this film just is just a fucking blast. Like, Jake Gyllenhaal.
That one was good.
God, he's fucking fantastic.
Like,
holy shit.
It takes a very special person to play that kind of role where you both love him, love what he's doing, and then feel so heartbroken by what he does. And at the same time...
Way to spoil it!
Whatever. You don't... I didn't spoil anything! Just keep going.
I'm sorry, it's just...
You get heartbroken by what he does. That's not a spoiler in any way. It could be that he, like, sacrifices himself to save Peter. We don't know what's happening here. Come on, Dev. I'm choosing my words a little more carefully than that.
But no, the entire cast is great. Overall, like...
It's good.
Zendaya is fantastic.
Zendaya? Which one's that?
MJ.
Okay. I don't have the IMDb pulled up right at the moment.
She is a fantastic actress, and she kills it in that role.
Mm-hmm.
I know people were very upset that, like, ooh, Mary Jane isn't Mary Jane?
I think what Zendaya does. Like, was MJ always, like, a quirky, nerdy person? Who liked... Okay. So, that... Sorry, I just read... I'm gonna read whatever that is in a moment. Like, because she does quirky, nerdy, likes weird, creepy things very, very well. I like that, yes.
And I appreciate a different take on a character. Mm-hmm. I usually always love that. And the fact that this is, like... This was a reveal at the end of Homecoming to continue playing forward. And it just works. Like, you know, the entire first film, she's Michelle, you know? Mm-hmm. And then in this film, she's now, like, all right, we're friends. I'm MJ. Mm-hmm. And it just works. And, like, she kills it. Like, I can't name a scene that she's in that doesn't work.
Nah, yeah, she's fine. Ultimately, like, when it comes to how these things work, the dynamic between the characters was great. especially like the relationship that develops. That was hilarious. Not like with. I think you know which relationship I'm talking about. Not MJ.
Are you talking about Ned's?
Yes. Like
Yes.
the characters there that happens, that's awesome. What we get to see with how okay, all in all, the relationship between the characters and the actors is superb. It's good. I like it. I'm not going to single it out between individual ones. They were all good when they came to acting together. Things I'm disappointed by when it came to this film because there's only really one, and it's their reaction to the snap. Like, we didn't get nearly as much as I was hoping for this being the end of Phase 3.
Okay, and I'm going
To counter that by saying,
yes. That this film is supposed to be a little bit more lighthearted.
I get that. And
it would be a really bleak opener, upon already a kind of comedically bleak opener, to be like, this happened, and showing people falling out of the sky. Because they do confirm one thing, you come back where you were.
Mm-hmm.
Which has a lot of awful implications.
Mm-hmm. I just watched this person die for the second time. It was love. No, see, like, I appreciated that we got that little bit of time that we saw with the bleak little high school-esque slideshow, and I understand that Marvel themselves never really said that they were going to address the aftermath of the snap. But I wish still that there was a little bit more. Because sure, this is supposed to be a lighter, smaller scale kind of thing to help us keep us grounded in the characters and show that it doesn't take a world, like a galactic destroying event to make a good movie still. So...
There's a lot of people were afraid that this film, because it wasn't, like post Endgame, people were like, man, I don't know if Marvel's going to be able to keep going.
That's such a stupid thing to say. God damn it.
I agree 100%. I've been on that boat the entire time. The people being like, oh man, post Endgame, I wonder if Marvel's going to be able to keep up its magic. And I'm over here like, have you seen the trailers for Far From Home yet? Have you?
I haven't. No, actually. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, but you weren't saying that.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. I was only worried because I really liked the villain. And once again, Marvel makes a really good villain. That's my favorite thing about the Marvel movies that I don't think many people realize is the best part of their movies. Is that...
Especially as of late, has been villains.
It's like... The villains are often like more oddly enough, like I was always told by my school teachers that if you're making a movie, you make your villain deep and complex and very intriguing, and you make your hero very flat and like relatable. So that way anybody can be the hero and they really like what the villain does.
Yes. And I would even almost argue that like our heroes are all in the MCU are all relatable in some way, but they're even super fucking complex in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Like the MCU is doing both, having complex, interesting heroes with complex, interesting villains.
And I think the reason why they're doing that, the reason why they can get away with that, has to be the fact that they've made this universe. Like, they're starting to get to the point where they are not reintroducing things about characters over and over and over again, even if it's like a movie, that, like, when they first introduced Spider-Man, they didn't show us Spider-Man's origin story. It's because everybody knows his origin story, and that's a good thing. And I think now Marvel is taking advantage. They've noticed that we don't actually have to tell people what's going on 100% about one character because they already know what's happened to that one character. So we can develop more on these other characters.
No, and it works. Like, you know what's strange? It works really well, especially given films like Infinity War, which you gave a. I'm bringing this up
Go for it.
as it starts partially as a joke, but also because it proves the point. Is that Infinity War? You had one of your complaints at the time. I know your tune has changed
Slightly.
Was that everyone was just cutouts of themselves, which I don't believe is the truth. But you didn't need to have as much screen time on them because you just had because everyone has already been developed in some way, and odds are that character, if someone's coming to see, Guardians of the Galaxy in this film, they've already watched the other two Guardians of the Galaxy films.
Yeah, they came to the wrong movie if they're watching Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, they came to the right film because it's technically in the line of Guardians of the Galaxy films.
Well,
like,
I get
if you just watch Guardians of the Galaxy films, right?
It's one.
Let's say that's the only MCU films you care about is ones with Guardians of the Galaxy in it.
Okay. Yeah.
You're a special soul, and I care for you. You've been only on phase 1. You've had one phase 2 film and 3 phase 3 films because you have to watch the other 2 Avengers films for it. And I feel like the fact that you understand the characters well enough that show up in the Infinity War and Endgame film enough to understand who they are without them having to explain everything about them.
I wasn't necessarily upset that the characters weren't at least currently, I'm not upset that each character wasn't introduced and explained. And I feel like that's what I was trying to portray back then as well. I just thought that they were boiled down to just 1 or 2 lines, and that was it. We didn't get to see all the cool, quirky parts of their personality that we normally get to see.
I'll still counter you on that.
Of course you will, because we never have the same opinions when it comes to Marvel movies, Dev. And it's never going to be. So let's not talk about Infinity War right now. We're talking about
I know, but I know, but it goes into Far From Home because there's stuff in Far From Home that's established in other films that carries over and works really well because if you've watched the other films, you don't need a full background check on what this stuff is. You already kind of understand it. And even if you don't understand it, they explain it in a way that you're like, okay, that makes sense for this universe. And that's all they need to do.
At least with they're at least taking advantage of some ways like that when it comes to these. I'm not gonna there are gonna be many times in the future, like with the Black Panther movie that comes out. I'm sure they're gonna have something that I'm going to be like, who's this character? Why didn't they give us more of an explanation of who they are and what they did? Because even though we've already had a Black Panther movie, and it all just depends on the approach and what the thing is. Like in this film, everything was fine. But who knows? Maybe in the next movie, because they tried to skip something, I'm not going to like it. It's just like...
I just don't know what they would be able to skip that wouldn't be something that should be kind of glossed over.
I honestly don't really know. It's just, we'll see. With everybody, I don't know superhero lore or anything like that, so I can't tell you what something can change or whatever that I don't know how to explain that.
Well, I think it's more of in my opinion, it's more of the fact that across the MCU as a whole, talking about let's say with Black Panther or let's say with this film, and they just glossed over who Happy Hogan is, right? Or let's say they glossed over I don't even know who.
I mean, they did essentially gloss over who Happy Hogan is. And
but Happy was in the first one.
True.
So he's already established.
But they didn't really explain who Happy was in the first movie when he was introduced.
Yes, they did. During the video stuff.
All right, I'll have to look back. I don't remember it. But continue.
With Nick Fury, he shows up, and his explanation is, "You're Nick Fury." And essentially, based off of his actions and everything, it tells you that he's a shady kind of undercover kind of person. If you had never seen S.H.I.E.L.D. before, anything to deal with, the rest of the MCU for some weird reason, I feel he's explained in a way that you understand his character.
Sure, I'll give
the
you
extent of what you would need to understand his character in this film.
Okay. Yes, sure. I think we're talking about two different things. Like, we're close to talking about the same thing. But
I know. We're at different points, but I feel like that's kind of how I look at it, at least.
Okay. Sure.
Is that like if a character is sort of has been established in other films, I don't want him to have a full explanation as to who they are in a other film that's connected to the same universe. I'd rather have it like what they did with this, where like you understand who Nick Fury is based off of action and based off of how people talk about him.
Mm-hmm. Like, sure,
that,
yeah,
in my opinion,
they did
works
Nick
better.
Fury fine in this film, sure. But one thing that they didn't do at all, this is just me playing devil's advocate here, is like they didn't do anything at all to establish Maria, really. Like,
that's fair, and
go ahead.
I don't know if they needed to, I guess.
Like, she wasn't a fundamental character. However, she was talked about, and she also had lines. So, like,
fair. I feel like it works though in the sense of that, like, it's kind of shown that she's Nick Fury's right hand.
Mm-hmm. Like how she's
more than anything.
There. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to say that that's why it works, at least for me personally. If that's really good enough, I don't know.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion on it because I've also watched every single film, so I have a very different adaptation of what these are.
You know what's strange? Going on a quick side tangent real fast. It's strange to think that not everybody in the world, and I'm over-exaggerating here, it's like there are more people than you think that have not seen all of these movies.
Yes.
So,
I agree.
Are we in the 1%, Dev?
I don't think it's 1%. I think it's a far greater margin of. I would say my guess would be if you're seeing an MCU film, you've seen
at least
like there's I'd say 20 to 30% area of people who've seen all of them. I'd say another 30 to say 50% who have seen most of them, and the rest percentage have seen a small number, if any of them.
Okay.
Is how I would break that down.
So ultimately, okay, never mind. No, you're fine. I was gonna nitpick you there, but no, your math.
I would say like 30%, 50%, 20%.
Okay. And the 30% could be split up even more, but we're not going to.
Yeah. Like the 30% is seen all of them. Maybe 20% in all honesty.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I get what you're saying here. I just worry that in the future that if Marvel plans to keep doing things like where they like, I almost feel like they're gonna introduce a character that we've seen before in like a Captain Marvel movie. Like, what if we see the Collector in Captain Marvel? Collector's barely, like, we know he exists because of the Guardians, and we know a little bit about him because of the
Thor
Guardians.
Dark World.
And Thor Dark World. But if you haven't seen those movies, and then he shows up in Captain Marvel, and Marvel's just like, hey, Collector, how's it going? And he's like, oh, nothing much, how's it going? Oh, here's this, tell me what's going on. Like, and nothing, like, there's no, like, explanation about who he is in the Captain Marvel side of things, then I think characters would get really confused. Or
potentially, I can agree with that. Yes,
came up with
but that's
example.
Also,
it took time.
I would also say that's a problem that comics have to deal with as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting to the point of these movies are just giant, big budget, live action comic books. And it's just going to be up to Marvel to figure out how to counter that. Because I don't know a way to 100% counter that. Where it's not exposition bombs whenever someone shows up, but also that people who don't know every single character and seen every single one of the films and happen to miss one that this character shows up in isn't left in the dark.
Sorry, there's a cat fight outside my room. I can get that. At this point, when it comes to these movies, I guess there's not much we can. Okay, I mean, we're way off tangent, and I kind of want to get back to talking about Far From Home.
Fair.
So let's.
Seems to happen with us.
Yeah, let's continue that conversation at another time. I feel, and keep talking about Far From Home things. So
okay, well, I've got to say, this film just has that. It's the best live-action Spider-Man film.
Best live-action Spider-Man, yes. Best Spider-Man would be Multiverse.
Spider-Verse, sir. Technical term is Spider-Verse. But, and I agree. And also a big part of this is just chemistry in the cast. Just makes this film great. And I think there's a certain thing that, like, the MCU has a formula that they change. Like, they use a formula to make movies.
Yeah.
All right. But the way they use the formula is very creative, in my opinion, because they changed things inside the formula to make a different film. They don't always go, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3.
Okay.
They're like, here are certain things that we need to do to make this feel like it's connected or similar and feels like the kind of films we make, while also making it feel unique compared to other films we make.
Okay.
And this film does that again with the villains, with the main characters, and just about everything else. It doesn't just, do the same things over and over like some people seem to say that Marvel does.
Like,
I don't agree that Marvel does that.
one thing,
I don't think we would be going to see Marvel films if
they change enough to make it interesting in some ways. Like, the thing that really got me in this movie, like what I really loved, was the youthful humor, for one, and the second was the fighting choreography and action scenes.
Oh, dude,
Those were amazing, especially right before the train happens. Like,
yes,
that one was really, really cool. And when it comes to, like, the technology and stuff that happens in these scenes, like, it's really real. It almost feels like we're getting to the point where this seems like something that could possibly happen in our life.
I agree. In all honesty, I think we're at that point where, like, if we talk anymore, we're gonna jump into spoilers. I can't think of any, like, cause we've already talked. Cinematography is also fantastic. Like, the shots, the way it's shot is just cool. Like, straight up.
Everything feels intentional too. It's good. So I guess we can move on to spoilers, maybe. Fine.
I'm thinking about the fact that, like, we are very much dancing on
the line, we are spoiling
on our tiptoes, dancing through glass on a line, with spoilers on both sides.
Not a bad analogy. Fine. We'll talk.
I'm just saying we're getting to that point.
I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm missing that I wanted to talk about, but not until we get into spoilers. No, I think we're good.
Okay. 10 popcorn kernels for you, sir.
10?
Yes.
I would give this movie... It's not a perfect 10.
I can agree with that. Spider-Verse is a perfect 10. This is not Spider-Verse.
It's really good when it comes to most things that it does. But it's not quite a 9 for me either, so I'm going to give it an 8.5.
I'm giving it a 9, so it's a 9 overall.
All right, that's fine. I
was going to give it 9.5, but I I'm trying not to always give Marvel everything.
That's what they want.
Even though for me they really do everything. Like in my opinion, honestly, it's a 9.5 for me, so it's still gonna be a 9 overall. But like I don't
like
I know I'm the fanboy, so like I feel like it's always really unfair.
no, it's fine. Like when it comes to Marvel movies, there's hit and miss with me because at times I'm pretty bored with them because they can be fairly formulaic depending on what you're doing or what's going on. But at the same time, they almost always have something excellent to watch or something cool to see. So it's hard to like. I may have superhero fatigue. Like I'm tired of seeing these damn superhero movies. But every time I see them, there's at least one thing in there that I'm like, that's pretty cool. That made this movie worth seeing. So,
fair enough. 9.5. So, holy shit.
Spoiler talk.
Yes. Holy shit. That, like, fair warning.
Let's get ready to spoil!
We are in the spoiler section. All right? This is pretty much spoilers from here on out until we talk about news-ish related stuff.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that heel turn.
One more time, sorry?
The heel turn?
The heel turn?
Or is that a face turn? I'm trying to remember my WWE analogies for when a person shifts from being good to bad.
Oh.
It's a heel turn, right?
I think a heel turn, yes.
Holy shit!
Yeah. That's a good... I wasn't even thinking about using wrestling analogies. That's clever. Heel turn.
That's how I've always looked at it. If someone changes from one side to the other, it's a heel turn or a face turn. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm not even anywhere near a wrestling fan.
Yeah, the term...
It's a great terminology for it.
Like, most people who don't know, heel is often the bad guy when it comes to somebody's, like, wrestling plot. Like, say, one that I can reference is, like, Undertaker, when he was first coming into contact with Kane was his heel. So.
Yes. And then a heel turn is when you turn to the dark.
Yeah.
While a face turn is when you turn to the light. Mm-hmm. See, I remember some little things. I mean, I'm not saying, and I'm not discrediting wrestling. I still think that it's a cool art kind of thing to it. There's a lot of...
There's theatrics.
Yes.
It's theater.
There's a lot to it. It is.
It's body theater.
It's intense throwing your body and destroying yourself theater. But, man, as soon as Jake Gyllenhaal switches to the heel, my God.
Like, so when I was watching this movie, I as everybody should know by now who's watched this, like, I don't know anything about comic book lore. Anything I do, I've heard from you. So all I knew about Mysterio was he was actually a bad guy. And it's like, what? How is Mysterio a bad guy? Jake Gyllenhaal is so nice. He's so relatable. He's, like, so friendly. And oh my God, what an asshole.
You want to, and I talked to Steven a little bit, it was Thursday.
I think, yeah.
I talked a little bit before the show on Thursday. Because we had both seen it. He saw it that day, I think.
Yes, I saw it Thursday.
And then I saw it Tuesday. I told him the moment that I knew Jake Gyllenhaal was the bad guy.
Did you say it again?
I'm saying it right now. Is when he said what Earth they were on. Okay. Was the moment I was like, all right, something's up. This is wrong. This is so wrong. And he calls their Earth 616. Which, to anyone who has an understanding of the Marvel multiverse, knows that Earth 616 is the main Earth in the Marvel comics. And also where Peter B. Parker comes from, but I think that's a alternate spin on universe. Because, like, there's... Comic universes are weird. I'm just going to say that. Mm-hmm. And it's always entirely possible that this Earth is a 616. And it kind of is a 616.
Is Earth
in a way.
616B or something? I don't know. I'm just kidding.
In a sense, it's 616 to them, all right? But in the actual multiverse, it's 199999. And if Mysterio really was from a different Earth, he wouldn't have called his Earth whatever they called it.
It was
They
like
called it like
538.
38. What was it?
I think it was Earth 538 or something.
Something like that. So then as soon as I heard it, I'm like, that's also not right. Because if he, like, if this Mysterio jumped to 616, right? And knew it was 616, odds are he would have ended up on the actual 616.
Sure.
In my opinion, just based off of like the way Marvel multi-dimensional travel works, because like the Spider-Men do a lot of multiverse travel.
Mm-hmm.
So do the Britain Corps. The Britain Corps would have done something about it because they're supposed to be the ones who safeguard upon multiverse travel. The only ones who really are allowed to get away with it other than them are Spider-Man because they are literally connected through the web of the multiverse. Like, they're actually connected. Like, they're... No, that's actually what it is. It's the...
Just...
They're connected by the web of dimensions.
It just sounds
it's
like...
so dumb sounding, I know.
Yes,
but
the
it's comic
multiverse
books, and
is a web, and because he's Spider-Man, he can connect to it.
Yes! It's cheesy as fuck, but that's how it works in the comics. And in my opinion, it's still brilliant because, like, you make the multiverse a web, and you have this character who can essentially be any character in any universe.
Mm-hmm.
Become who you want.
The world galactic web.
If he also was one of the other multiverse traveling Spider-Man would have interfered.
Okay. So you're saying that the fact that it wasn't actual multiverse travel because of all these other things you know about clues you off. And you're like, hey.
Yes, it was a huge clue for me.
Okay.
It was one of those moments where I'm like, kind of things, all right?
Like,
still made me want to believe Jake Gyllenhaal because he's fucking Jake Gyllenhaal.
Well, so lately with me, like, Jake Gyllenhaal was great. When the turn happened, it happens both kind of unexpectedly, but because I knew he was Mysterio, and what you had told me before, I was keeping things in mind, and with cinematography, there was a clue as well, and it wasn't until right before he turned when it happened that I noticed it. There's this thing called the rule of thirds, which everyone knows about. Like if I'm in frame, technically on the stream, I'm on the center frame, and then now I'm on this third of the frame, and then now I'm on the other third of the frame. If I'm having a conversation, like, we're talking in thirds on opposite sides of each other. So, like, if, like, me and Dev, we're now, other side there, Dev, there we go. Technically now me and Dev are having a conversation using proper cinematography. However, when it comes to, like, misconnections and dialogue and not understanding things, they'll start showing the characters on the opposite side of the frame closer to each other. Like, you're still facing me, but then you're just technically closer. And people are like, the fact that there's not empty space between us shows a disconnect between the conversation and what's actually happening with intentions. And that happens right before Edith is given over. Which, speaking of which, Edith, favorite name in this movie by far. But when right before,
pretty good.
Yeah, right before Edith is handed over, there's one of those frames where Jake Gyllenhaal and Mysterio is technically on the wrong side of the frame for a proper conversation when it comes to cinematography, and that's what made me like, okay, something's about to happen.
That's fair.
But then the way it turns, like, I was really confused in certain moments. Like, there's the fight scene with the fire guy, with when he hits something invisible. I was like, what the hell is that? Was that a bad render? And then it was later explained.
It was Spider-Man's web that grabbed it.
Yeah.
And I will give credit to the marketing to this film of hiding of what they actually were through, like, even the toys and even, like, the names in the movie and all that. like some of the what are they the Funkos and stuff that came out had them as like Hydro Man, Sandman, Molten Man, which are all actual villains for Spider-Man.
But now
they're also getting called the Elementals in this. But it also led me to like part of one of my theories was like, what if he's working with these villains, kind of thing.
That was something I also had in mind too. Is like, what if he's actually working with the Elementals and not?
The Elementals aren't actually the Elementals; they're actually just villains. Sandman, Hydro Man, Molten Man.
Yeah. Like,
could have worked too. I mean, the fact that like the snap happened, in all honesty, there were surges of such immense power. Things could have gone crazy, horribly, like, all over the place. And those characters could have been easily created in the 3 snaps that happen.
Oh, so also, since we're talking about the snap again, I was really disappointed by the graphics this time around when they showed the dusting and then the undusting. Like, when they showed the handheld cell phone camera, I was like, oh my god, that looks so awful. What the hell
It's just
happened?
the way the phone renders it, Steven.
Yes, absolutely. Like, that was one of those probably like last minute pickup scenes that they threw in that they had to make. That they're like, okay, put it together. All right, we're good.
Well, I'll give them the excuse that they used it on a handheld phone.
Yeah, that's where it works because you can clearly tell the quality of the video had changed, and then the dusting happened, and you're like, what the? That was bad. But then when they all came back and the band was run over by the basketball team, was hilarious.
Which really just, again, horrible implications for a lot of people.
What if instead of them just coming back in the air, what if they came back in the seat they were sitting in? Even if it's grounded right now, they're just in that seat.
Still very awkward.
Less death, more awkward.
Just sitting on someone's lap suddenly.
Yeah. Just suddenly, where'd you come from? Achoo!
Yeah. You know what? We don't know. Maybe, you know what? That could be the excuse that they're going to go with. Which, all right, fuck it. Why not? They don't need to. You know what? Actually, that would make sense, in all honesty. Because Hulk did the snap, right? The re-snap. Mm-hmm. By the way, this spoiler section is going to include endgame spoilers. I'm sorry.
We're spoiling everything.
It's just going to happen.
Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Which, if you're one of the 3 people who haven't seen Endgame, go see fucking Endgame. What are you doing?
It's still in theaters, for fuck's sakes.
It is. Go see it. For fuck's sake.
Help Dev.
See it. You need this. It's a film you need to see in cinemas once. Like, I don't care.
Sorry, Jay showing up.
Yes.
Yes, that is the problem we have with the show sometimes.
It's why we have a spoiler section.
Thanks for being here.
But I think Hulk would have thought about that when he did his snap.
Mm-hmm.
So potentially that's how they get around it.
Yeah, Hulk's a nice guy. He wouldn't just make people die again.
No, and I think that's actually a fair way of putting it. That, like, you have the power to snap everyone back. You probably have the power while doing that to put them in a place that means that they're not going to die. Because in all reality, if they came back exactly where they would have came back in space. Because the Earth would have moved.
If you're being that exact, then yes. Yeah, because the Earth rotates around the sun, and they would have just...
And the sun rotates around the
center
galaxy,
of the
and the galaxy is shooting off into the, ether.
We're not talking shit about you, Jay. Don't worry.
Hold on.
talking so much shit right now. You have no idea. I'm just going to make it look like I'm absolutely talking shit about him right now. And then, Dev, you're going to nod in agreement, saying that Jay is definitely, yeah, you get, yeah, there we go. So now Jay is totally assuming that we're making fun of him, even though we're totally not. And he'll find that out
pretty much
on the VOD when it comes out on Tuesday on our YouTube channel. ! YouTube. Okay.
There we go. Typed it out. But I think that, like, I love how they also played some of it for jokes.
Yes.
Like, the fact that, like, we got done with our midterms and now we have to take our midterms again.
Even though some of us have already gotten through half the year and passed, we must start over. My little brother is now older than me. What the heck?
That was funny.
Yeah. He's not actually 16. He's he blipped. Why the hell did they decide to call it the blip?
I feel it was a comedic choice, and I'm fine with that, because it was the there's been the dusting,
the decimation,
and now the blip.
The blip.
Snap. The blip is the now in canon, what everyone's calling it, moment. I think the blip is everyone returning.
But they call it blipped. Like they blipped out of time for 5 years.
Yes.
So I don't think them returning. I think the whole thing has been considered the blip.
I think the decimation was what it was called originally, but because they came back, it's now the blip.
Yeah, because initially, I think what it was to put humor in it, of course, because we knew it as this thing that was literally the whole driving force behind all of the MCU for 23 movies, and now it's the blip. It doesn't matter anymore. We're past it.
Which is the most comic book way ever.
It was
and I
so
fucking
frustrating.
I love it though.
It's so perfect.
That's such a comic book way to do it. That's how they have to do it.
Oh,
fantastic.
It's like, God, it just hurts my soul. I don't know
all this dedication to this franchise that you've put forward.
Yep, and now it's a blip.
It's just the blip.
Yep. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even get a cool name because it doesn't fucking matter.
It matters in the sense that, like, Flash can't have a drink. Which I'm glad they made that joke.
Yeah, they had to do it at least once. Which, one thing, I both liked what they gave us when it came to character for Flash. They gave us a lot more with him. Especially, I'm curious now to see, why they gave us so much of his family relationship. They barely gave us anything, but we know him and his mom don't talk much, and his parents are barely there. So I'm curious why they decided to bring this up suddenly.
Building him up so that we can create an Agent Venom.
Probably.
Which I'm cool with, because that would be Flash has such a great arc in the comics. I'm going to say this. Flash goes from being the dickheaded bully, jock dude in the comics, to becoming actually a great person, and then joining the military, serving in 2 different wars. He lost his legs, and then joins an experimental agency thing, and becomes Agent Venom, which becomes arguably the best form of Venom. Until he gets back to Eddie Brock, and then Eddie learns to be better.
Okay.
And not be an awful person. Agent Venom has such implications to Venom in general, and such great, changes to what Venom meant, that it made, the symbiote went from being an asshole to being a hero. The symbiote itself.
Okay, yeah.
That psychotic fucking consciousness went from being this thing that everyone's like, God damn it, it's fucking Venom, to God damn it, it's Venom. All right, kind of thing.
now I'm just thinking, you changed my mind, Eddie. You did.
Well, part of the problem is that they kind of went with the Agent Venom storyline in Venom.
Yeah.
I talked about it at that time. So I won't go into it too much. But I can see them doing a series with Flash, building up his character in some way.
Yeah, I think
To be
they
a side
definitely
character.
needed to give him more. I think what they're going to do is they're going to develop him as an anti-hero part. Like he's going to be Bakugo in My Hero Academia to Peter Parker's Midoriya.
Well, I would counter that with I see him actually because there'll be a moment where him and Spider-Man are gonna have a moment, and Spidey's like his opinion on how to treat others is going to change. That's how it happens in the comics.
I mean, he's already mentioning it. He's like, Spider-Man makes me want to be a better person, but then he immediately makes fun of Peter Parker, which hilarious, by the way.
oh yeah, no, that was a great fucking moment.
Too bad.
No, I look forward to seeing what they do with these characters, and also like I look forward to seeing. I mean, should I jump into the end credit?
So before we talk about that, tell me what you thought of Fury, this whole movie.
Can I talk about an end credit thing while I do it?
Can we get to the end credit thing?
I don't have to talk about the other end credit thing. I'm talking about the other end credit thing.
You're talking about...
The last end credit.
Yeah, that's... So, what I was getting at here, because we're talking about Fury, right? That's the end credit. So, what I was getting at here was... there was theories online about what had happened to Nick Fury. Some of them ended up being correct. However, what matters is I liked how they treated what they did with Nick Fury in this movie, and how like the end credit scene, what it does to the film. Because if you're watching the film by itself without knowing what the end credit scenes, maybe you think Fury is a little off, but you only think he's off because he knows nothing because he's been gone for 5 years. Like, he explains it that way. It makes sense. But so in the whole, as everything comes together, everything's like, cool, this makes sense. Everything's all wrapped up, no problem. But then when you get to the end credit scene, you see that Fury. Do you want to explain it? Or since you were so...
Talos!
Yes.
Ben Middleton!
Ben Mendelsohn.
Hey, shut up. It's not that bad. Jesus Christ.
He's
Relax.
the only one that sounds like he has fake teeth in his mouth.
So what? That's just what he went with, and I fucking love him. All right?
Yeah, it's fine.
It heads to that fucking character in all the right ways.
So yeah, Ben Mendelsohn turns out to have been freaking Nick Fury, and it means a lot for the MCU as a whole, but it also doesn't change anything at all with the Spider-Man movie, which is why it is my favorite post-credit scene that we've had so far. It's
so great because for the fans who are like, man, Nick just feels off. He's doing things he wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, like he wouldn't tell Spider-Man the plan while in the middle of a fucking bedroom in the hotel room. Like,
or he wouldn't, have trusted Jake Gyllenhaal as much as he did.
Almost.
This just seems off.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the last end credit scene happens like, oh, it was Talos. That's something Talos would 100% have fucking done.
Yes.
Having established him in Captain Marvel for anyone who understands his character from that film.
So, it was hilarious.
And the implications of what they showed at the end of that.
Yes, the holodeck with the huge hangar bay and like...
Oh my god, we're gonna get Sword!
Sword?
Sword!
Shield and Sword. I get it.
Sword is the space
Okay.
agency that protects Earth from spacefaring threats. Shield is the Earthbound one.
Mm-hmm.
Fury's always butted heads with Shields in the comics, or with Sword in the comics, but it makes sense that Shield doesn't really technically exist, but it's very much background and not like something that everyone talks about kind of thing, like it would have been. So making Sword makes so much sense, and it's going to be so fucking cool.
Agents of Sword television series. Let's go.
No, Alpha Flight.
Fine. Call it whatever you want. I just think if they called it Agents of Sword, it would get all the people who loved Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So.
Yeah, but Alpha Flight also gets the Canadians.
That's just what they'd end up calling them in the show. All right, Alpha Flight, are we ready to go? Yes. So, but it did make me question, like, whose technology do you think that is? Do you think it's Kree? Do you think it's Skrull? Do you think it's...
It's not Kree. They talked about a Kree sleeper cells. You know what? Actually, implication for future stuff that I think was put into this film.
Mm-hmm.
I think Secret Invasion has been 100% confirmed as being one of the next things.
At this point?
But the Skrulls aren't the invaders.
Mm-hmm. Are they the Jabari?
No.
What were they in Dark Phoenix?
Davari.
Yeah, whatever.
Jabari is something else, and I don't know what.
I think it's something from Black Panther, actually, now that I think about it, but...
I think so. No. The Kree could be the Secret Invaders.
How can the Kree shape to look like humans?
They don't have to. They look like humans.
But they're gold.
That's not the Kree.
Okay, fine.
The Kree were in Captain Marvel.
Oh, fine. I guess some of them do kind of look like humans. Some of them are blue aliens. Some of them are green aliens. Some of them are human aliens.
Some are very human aliens.
They just have weird color, like slightly discolored eyes. But
which in a world like this, that's not far off.
Yeah. So maybe you couldn't be wrong.
They talked about Kree sleeper cells as well. So what if Secret Invasion isn't even like a strip invasion? It's a war. Not Secret Wars, because that wouldn't work. Secret Wars is an entirely different thing. But Secret Invasion is a war between Skrull and Kree on Earth, and the Kree and the humans have to fight off, or the Kree and the Skrulls and the humans have to fight off the Kree, and the Kree are invading because they're pissed off at, like, some of the Guardians of the Galaxy's fucked up Ronin, and they kind of have a grudge against that, and one of them is a Terran, Earthling. Captain Marvel, a Terran, destroyed them, and we don't even know what she's going to do next time, because the next one is still going to be a prequel movie. So it's going to still be kind of, before everything, Infinity War and Endgame happened. So
it's going to have to explain.
We don't even know what else she does to them. What?
It's going to have to explain while they're still on Earth.
Well, they got back. They can go over the 5 years. They can go back to Earth.
True. I'm not surprised with that. I had two things that came to my mind. I'm going to kind of do them now that I think about it. This is kind of speculation towards the future, but since we're in spoilers now, and I don't want to say Jay starts to listen to us again when we switch to news, I don't want to start possibly spoiling again while we're in the news. So I guess we could talk about some future speculations here. Like, I've been seeing fan theories online. Two of them that kind of caught my attention. One of them was people are hoping to see a Captain Marvel meets Peter Parker kind of movie where they work together kind of thing, because they are such different personalities that it would work.
I could see that working.
And because people, supposedly the way it's working out right now is the reason why this one caught my attention was because Kevin Feige has stated in saying that Captain Marvel is going to be the head of Phase 4, essentially. But currently Spider-Man's the one who's really the one who looks like he's getting all the attention, especially on Earth, because he's replacing Tony Stark, supposedly. So people want to see him interacting, Earth's newest greatest hero interacting with the galaxy's greatest hero, even though their personalities are completely different.
I can see that being good. We'll get there eventually. What's the other one?
The hidden 7th Infinity Stone, known as the Ego Stone.
No, There's really so many other stones, and I don't want to get into this. If they go down this route,
yeah, isn't there
Christ.
the entire alternate universe where they had like 10 stones and they needed 2 gloves to wear them all?
Yes, there's an
And one of
entire
them was
universe that
inside
had
the
10
brain
fucking stones.
of Tony Stark, and
The
the 7th stone, the ego stone, was something that was brought up with I looked into this because I was curious. It's something that was brought up with a crossover event with another comic book series, where what happens is this person ends up stealing the Infinity Stones, and when they get to this other dimension, they react and find this ego stone, which is also in this dimension, that not even the Celestials, the ancient races, knew about because it's so forgotten. And when all 7 of the pieces come together, they create the being that split herself off into the stones.
Yeah, it gets complicated.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Marvel.
If we add in more stones, it gets complicated. That's just how it's always been.
I want to dissect Tony Stark's brain to find the Intelligence Stone. I think that's what it was called.
Speaking of Tony Stark, do you think he'll come back as AI?
I wanted him. I thought that was going to happen when he put on the glasses.
Would have been great.
Right? But we got Even Dead, I'm Still the Hero.
Which is still fucking awesome.
That was the funniest joke. Like, he's such an egotist, but he would definitely do that.
Yeah. Even Dead, I'm still the hero.
Because it's my technology, which that has more implications than you think. Because every single villain that Spider-Man has had to deal with was an offspring of Tony Stark's. Like, something that Tony Stark did created Spider-Man's villains.
Most of the villains of the MCU are a result of Tony Stark.
So, I find it funny that Even Dead, I'm Still the Hero was like what Edith was built after. Like, Even Dead, he's still the cause of the problems. Jake Gyllenhaal and Mysterio only existed because of Tony Stark. And Barf.
Yes, and Ironmonger, surprisingly.
Yeah, with the reactor dude. That was really cool.
But
if you look
that
back,
was such a good
actor.
It is. No, he's the guy who was from Christmas Story. He was the kid. He was Ralphie from the original Christmas Story. Fun fact. Mm-hmm. But like, look at even just Avengers villains. Like, I would consider Thanos truly Tony Stark's enemy.
I wish there was a little bit more of a connection between the two of them, but yes. Like, I wish there was more of a cosmic explanation on why they knew each other, other than the fact that, like, yes, I know you. You showed up 5 years ago and killed my still alive daughter.
Well, I think it's just the way that their personalities are. They will always clash, no matter which versions of them they are in that. And, like, the reason why, like, in Endgame, why is the reason why Thanos comes back? Is because Tony Stark figures out how to save everyone. And his way of figuring out how to save everyone brings Thanos
back. Yeah.
There. And the only reason why the snap happens in the first place is because Tony has to live. And Doctor Strange knows this, so he has to give him the stone in order for Tony Stark to live, to make sure that the one fucking way everything survives is Tony Stark is alive. He's the most pivotal thing to the universe in some ways, and he's fantastic for it, but he also does some stupid shit. Like, the satellites in this film had to have been built when Cap was not in the Avengers.
My thought here was, like, when at any point was there enough time for Tony Stark to build a multi-trillion-dollar satellite and drone payload delivery system without anybody knowing about it up until now with Edith? Like,
you know when? Was the time in between Civil War and Infinity War. Because he realizes there's no Avengers.
If he needs something to defend the world, and he has a kid almost blow up his best friend. or not his best friend, but still, you get the point.
Yeah.
It's just, oh god. So also, one of the scenes, my second favorite scene, like the coolest fight scene was when he first fights Mysterio right before he gets hit by the train while all that stuff's happening.
God, dude, it was straight up out of Arkham.
Yeah, that was legitimately
or from Spider-Man game when you face Scorpion.
Yeah, like that was legitimately the coolest part of this movie to me. The second best part of this movie to me was when they did the exact same cinematography from Iron Man 1 that they did here with him creating his own Spider-Man suit, and then they had Happy kick on the music.
Oh yeah, dude, that was God, that was such a good scene.
That made me cry. I'll be honest. Like I legitimately shed a tear or two. I was like, I laughed first because it was, how can you not love that music for one, and then two,
yeah, 'cause he puts his hand on the scanner, he pulls it off, the wrist thing comes on,
and then he does
the whole Tony Stark thing.
Yeah, that was the part that really got me, was when he like put his hand through the hologram and was like, and then he picks it up and he's like, yeah, like that whole movement was perfect, and I was like, oh, even though it's so minor and it's something so simple, I was like, that's just too poetic for me.
And it was great. It was passing the torch. Mm-hmm. That was the torch passed.
And then with the freaking like Happy being the new father figure, that was nice.
Yeah, no, it was, and that whole speech about like that, the entire film, Spider-Man doesn't quite know if he can live up to the legacy of Iron Man, and Happy's like, no one can. Tony couldn't.
Not even that. Tony could live up to Tony.
Like the amount of mistakes he's made. Look at it, like. He couldn't live up to his own legacy. And yes, no, chasing, that's a good way of putting it.
Young grasshopper.
But like it showed that he was ready to take things on. And I loved the new suit. Mm-hmm. My God, that new suit was fantastic. And I loved Spider Sense in this film. Because it wasn't something he's honed in yet. And they've shown him almost, I don't want to say gaining that ability, but learning how to use it.
Yeah, properly. He was focusing it, which I love how they even had to, like, he's still young in his superhero career. He's still trying to figure himself out, and I love how he hadn't decided a name for it yet, other than the Peter Tingle.
Fucking Ant-Man, that was great.
Oh, I thought you could feel that stuff with your Peter Tingle. Don't call it a Peter Tingle. And then Happy calls it Peter Tingle. I have a sixth sense.
It's such a great running joke. But no, like, it just, like, seeing him learn how to do it, because, like, it shows that he's not the Spider-Man, like, and it shows how smart he is as well. Like, that's something that, like, other Spider-Men just didn't do, besides Into the Spider-Verse. Mm-hmm. Into the Spider-Verse showed that Peter Parker and any Spider-Man is usually extremely intelligent.
Yeah.
This one, again, proceeds to show you that. Like, Homecoming showed that as well, but this showed that.
Yeah, this Spider-Man is the first live-action Spider-Man that actually shows how intelligent he is. Like, not only does he know about multiverse theory and, like, quantum theory, he actually knows how to ground his web shooter to not be electrified without asking his girlfriend. Andrew Garfield. like, it was, and I love that they actually showed how smart this guy was. But it also makes me wonder, they changed something fundamental about Spider-Man with this movie.
Oh.
It's the first end credit scene.
Oh, yes. Holy shit. This is one of those moments that, like, this is the best end credit ever.
It's like arguably a huge cliffhanger, and it's like, oh my God.
It is no joke the best cliffhanger Marvel has ever produced. Mm-hmm. Because it has 3 oh shit, what the fuck moments. Do you want to do one of them?
No, go for it. String them all out.
First one. is that the footage from the fight with Mysterio, where Mysterio dies, there's a big question mark on that. We don't know 100%. It looks like he dies, but there's also potential that it's also just.
It's not really explained. Like, the way it's brought up in the movie was Peter asks, "Is this real?" And Edith replies, "There are no active holograms." But he doesn't ask, "Is Mysterio dead?"
He looks dead, though. He can also live on through the fact that, like, he could live on through, like, an internet entity kind of thing.
Yeah, he can somehow become an AI.
Yes. In a sense of, like, it's always a possibility. And I would love for him to return because Mysterio was fantastic, and I would love to see a Sinister Six with him and Michael Keaton's Vulture. That would be so fucking awesome. Anyways.
So that was the first one.
It's revealed that Spider-Man... It's said that Spider-Man decides to kill everyone kind of thing. Like, he's the one in control of the drones. Because he wants to be the next Iron Man kind of thing. And you're like, oh, shit. This is Spider-Man public enemy #1 kind of thing. Which... anyone who knows Spider-Man knows that it's not the truth, but at the same time, they're like, uh-oh, this is bad news. And then it's revealed J. Jonah Jameson, this information came from J. Jonah Jameson over at the Daily Bugle.
Net or something.
Which is totally an InfoWars joke. And none other than the man himself, J.K. fucking Simmons, reprises his role as... J. Jonah Jameson. And it was one of those moments, as soon as you see his face and you hear the voice, you're like, of course. Who else could they do this with? If anyone was casted.
Yeah, he's too perfect to not... like, they already have the perfect J. Jonah Jameson. There's no way to recast that man. I'm sorry.
There isn't. Besides with voice actors and for animated versions. Like, that's the only way you can do it. And that's the only way anyone else has done it. Is with voice actors.
So then, yeah. So now we have J.K. Simmons.
And then the most oh shit, like, you're already here on your oh shit meter. And then they showed the last clip from what Mysterio created.
Yeah, well, like, because...
Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say, this part I really liked because all we get to see, like, we kind of know something's going to happen because we get to see the man behind the chair for Mysterio doing something, and then he disappears, and then that's the end of the movie, essentially. Like, he loads something, and then that's the last we see of him. And
yeah, because before this mid-credit scene, Peter Parker's swinging with MJ, he puts her down, and he lands on a light, and well, he's swinging with MJ, and then it cuts to the credits. We get to the mid-credit, he lands, puts MJ down, and then he goes to swing away, but lands on a light post real quick, like right above her, and because all of a sudden breaking news happens, and the first two things happen, and then Mysterio comes back on through a clip. Spider-Man's identity is Peter Parker, and then they plaster a fucking picture of Peter Parker on there of a 16-year-old kid.
And then you just see one of my favorite techniques in cinema called the dolly zoom, when the background looks like it gets closer and it looks like it's compressing space, and you just see Spider-Man react like, "Oh no!" And then
you see his goggles go from this to
just as wide as they will go.
He's like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, and then it's the end. Yeah, and it's that fundamentally changes who Spider-Man is as a hero in the comics.
There is ways that they can get around this. How? We don't know. And God damn it, I want Spider-Man 3 to be early Phase 4. Please. It needs to be an early Phase 4. I wouldn't mind if they had a turnaround time of fucking 2021 or for the next film. Like, please.
Another 2 years before a Spider-Man movie? But then we have to worry, then what's the plans next? Because I'll be honest, I was angry when I saw that fucking Sony logo as the first thing I saw from this movie. And soon that's going to be the future of this franchise, man.
Yeah. Should we move on to news and talk about that? This is not really spoiler territory. That's more...
Yeah, I guess we can. Is there anything else spoiler related that we want to talk about?
Man, those drones, dude. And that scene. Those, like, the fucking... like
I mean-
Jake Gyllenhaal's ability to control the movie, and the fact like that scene when Peter's going through the like terrible fear toxin scene. Holy shit! Just like the amount of like detail they put into that. It's all 100% CG, all of it, but it works.
And the best part about the whole thing too is this movie only works because our Spider-Man isn't a trained Spider-Man yet. Like if he had more of a grasp of all of his powers, that CG stuff wouldn't have worked on him. That hologram stuff wouldn't have worked, and then he would have been fine. Like this was a movie, like this was an opportunity timing, like an opportune time for when Mysterio could actually be a relevant villain in modern cinema, as well as an opportune time in that modern cinema for this villain to show up in that character's life. So like,
yes, because like in all honesty, he is a terrifying kind of villain.
My first thought when they showed the after credit scenes with Spider-Man was like, man, this looks a lot like a deep fake. So a lot of people will probably think it's fake, but then at the same time, you always know that someone's going to believe that's real, and now Peter's in trouble.
Well, and the other problem too is like he's the kind of villain that could happen with the fact that like they use a lot of drones and like hologram technology kind of stuff. And it works. Like it's one of those things that like Mysterio was kind of lame when he was introduced in the comics. Straight up, like no offense to Mysterio, he's a staple of what Spider-Man is.
Isn't he just a guy who? Isn't he literally a guy who just uses smoke and mirrors and that's it?
Kinda, because he was a what is it?
Magician?
Hollywood dude.
Stuntman?
Does yeah, kind of like that. He trickery with cameras and stuff like that for movies and such.
Okay. Careful, Dev. I might become your next supervillain.
Potentially, if you aren't already.
Okay, good.
But it was the way they modernized him worked so well.
Okay. Which, before I want to talk about one more thing, then we're gonna hop out of spoilers and into movie, just news in general. I want to pose a hypothetical for you.
Hit me.
Actually, hang on. No. This can actually wait until out of news. This is something that I think everyone can have a conversation with. So, are you okay with us hopping into news and then we can...
Let's hop in, and
right.
I can bring up the thing that I wanted to talk about.
Okay. So, my first little hypothetical that I want to talk to you about is superhero medium is kind of changing, where it's gone from comic books being the main source to a lot of people just watching them in movies. Do you think that we're ever going to see an original Marvel superhero that was never a comic book but was made into a movie?
Potentially.
I think that would be really interesting.
I could see it. I mean, they've come out with others. There was one who was introduced for a card game, who is now a staple of like one of the groups in comics and in one of the shows. I can't remember what her name was, but she was introduced in one of the card game things or one of the mobile games.
Okay.
I can't remember who it was. But like, yeah, she's original from there.
Jason says there is one.
Well, there is technically one, Coulson.
Agent Coulson?
Yeah, he's completely original to the movies.
Oh. I mean,
but
like...
because people loved him, he's become a staple for comics.
Yeah.
And anything Marvel media.
Yeah, I meant more like a new Black Panther, a new Iron Man, a new something like that, where it's a character...
I agree. I know what you meant.
Yeah.
Coulson would be the closest we've gotten to that, though.
Okay. Because we've...
Hey, let's go with it.
Yeah, why not? That'd be cool. I'll watch that.
I would love to introduce... I would love to be introduced to new heroes in this medium who don't exist anywhere else, because that would also give me a huge disadvantage for these kind of films. Is that I no longer have my catalog of knowledge to be like...
I don't know what's happening anymore. Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, and also, like, I mean, we'll see more of it, I think. Especially given that, like, no offense to the comic industry, it's not doing super hot right now. Which happens. The comic industry tends to ride a lot of waves. It has fluctuated greatly over the years.
I mean, there's a reason why all these studios owned Marvel properties to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that oh, damn it, I need to look up Box Office Mojo real fast.
For the other thing we don't really talk about?
Yeah, for your thing.
Yeah, I need to pull it up too. I haven't actually pulled it up yet. I was going to talk about the Sony thing first, though.
The Sony thing, sure. I would love to talk about the Sony thing. So, yeah. For anyone who wasn't here when we first brought it up, I had brought up: do you think it's possible for Disney to buy out Sony?
Oh, it's so close. Sorry.
No worries. I asked if it was possible for Disney to buy out Sony, that way that they could hold on to the Spider-Man storyline and a character, because there's no way that they're going to sell Spider-Man now that he's been so popular. So
no, not a chance. And I don't think that Disney could buy them technically, because that would be straight up like, I think that would be against certain laws that are in place. Unfortunately,
you're probably not wrong. At what point are they a monopoly? And
yeah, because I mean, there's still technically a ton of studios competing with Disney at the box office.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're actually able to truly compete with it is a different question.
Oh wow, it is close. I thought it was. Okay.
But I have but I don't see Sony giving that up, because they still make money on all of the other stuff, and then they aren't going to give up on Spider-Man because they make money from that. I think the best case scenario is they keep this partnership going, because if they don't, Sony is going to destroy Spider-Man. There is no way Sony can do a good Spider-Man film. I'm sorry.
Yeah, people, the worst thing is a lot of people have said that the Venom movie was a good movie and justifies them being able to take care of Spider-Man.
No.
No.
We talked about this. Venom was good because of Tom Hardy.
Yes. And that's about it.
Tom Hardy talking to Venom was the best thing of that film. The rest of the film we talked about has issues. A sequel to Venom could potentially do all right and fix some of these issues that we've talked about. Will it happen? No, because they put Woody Harrelson into a goddamn fucking clown wig. For it. That's a different topic entirely. There's no way I could ever see Sony pulling off a good Spider-Man picture after this. That isn't Into the Spider-Verse related.
Yeah, maybe they can pull it off. I say maybe because they've seen now with 2 examples of what a good Spider-Man live action could be. Maybe they can figure it out now.
Gotta counter you with one problem. If Sony owns all the rights and doesn't use any help from MCU, we lose half of our cast. Not really, but we lose a portion of our cast. We lose a portion of what makes this Spider-Man this Spider-Man. Because there's a good chance if this happens, the name Tony Stark couldn't be uttered by this Spider-Man. Which would take away from so much of what this character has been developed.
Well, maybe. I mean, it could see. The next Spider-Man movie could be Spider-Man developing into somebody who's more mature and more complex and stuff like that. And then when Sony takes it over, it could be like the Spider-Man video game where he's 8 years so far into the future that like maybe he remembers Tony Stark and all the things that he did teach him initially, but now it's not a daily reminder, something that he constantly thinks about.
Well, I'll also counter that with the fact that a good chance that, because it's not a spoiler, it's just a background thing that pops up in Spider-Man, is who's going to buy the Avengers Tower. And someone pointed out that if you look at the tower, It says 1, 2, 3, question mark. See what comes next. Do you know what tower that can get turned into?
No.
The Baxter Tower.
For
You know who lives in the
Fantastic
Baxter
Four?
Tower? Yes.
Huh?
Who else could buy that tower?
I don't know. We don't know a lot about the world that they live in. Well, there's a whole 5 years of businesses that could have sprung up that we know nothing about, Dev.
In my opinion, it's that or Oscorp who buys that building.
I could see Oscorp doing that too. Or
You want to know what? If Fantastic Four buys this building,
why can't Pims buy it?
because he's still technically a criminal? They haven't exactly been cleared of everything.
Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work.
So, I don't know if that's going to be an answer. And Pym doesn't actually really run his own company anymore anyway, so. He did destroy that building, remember?
Yeah, so he could buy a new building.
He doesn't want to do that. He's already established. It's already been established in the Ant-Man films that Pym doesn't want to do that. He wants to just live off his life with his wife. All right.
Yeah, off on their little beach with their portable house.
Yes.
Okay.
So if the Fantastic Four buys that, that would give the opportunity for Johnny Storm and Peter Parker to become friends. Connect those two. Because one of my favorite parts in the comics is their relationship.
Okay.
Comics, because they are the epitome of the best bromance. Like those two are always there for each other. There's a point in the comics when Johnny loses his powers and feels hopeless, but Peter still hangs out with him every single fucking chance he gets.
Oh, wow. So would you say that Peter's a better friend to Johnny Storm than he was to Wade Wilson? Is that who Deadpool is?
Yes.
Okay.
Different friendships. Given the fact that like Spider-Man didn't like Deadpool for a long time and then started to get to know Deadpool and realize he's not the most horrible thing on the planet. And actually realized he does have a heart and he tries to make Deadpool a better person. It's a different type of friendship.
Okay.
Johnny and Peter are two friends who are very competitive with each other because they like to hang out, they like to challenge each other, and they be there for each other, kind of thing. So it like that relationship would be something I would love to see put into comics, or into movies. And if Sony does the stupid, as we're gonna call it,
Stupid, yes.
the stupid, and takes that away, it would not. It wouldn't work, and also they would also ruin the chance of having other people's favorite Spider-Man bromance. I guess. I'm sorry, but the heart. I'm gonna say this: the heart in Johnny Storm and Peter Parker's relationship is more touching and better, in my opinion.
Okay.
And it's not taken away from the bromance that the other two have. Their bromance exists. Spidey Pool is a ship that people have.
Spidey Pool? Ugh. Let's not jump into a Spidey Pool anytime soon.
They've done it in the comics, so. Not like that. They did have a child, though. That was a clone of both of them put together.
That's awful.
It's a fantastic arc, and I fucking love it. But, we wouldn't get those. So, Sony needs to accept that they need the MCU for Spider-Man non-Spider-Verse films.
Yeah, maybe they'll come up with a contract saying that Marvel can still end up using Spider-Man, but they just have to make a certain amount of money off of it.
Yes.
So,
Sony needs to make money off of the Spider-Man films. Fine. We can accept that. But the Tom Holland iteration of Spider-Man needs to stay in the MCU.
They'll just make they'll make the fourth Spider-Man.
That will fucking fail, and then they'll realize their mistake, and everyone will be like, Sony will grovel back to the MCU. We don't don't want to lose our rights to Spider-Man. Please make Spider-Man films with us.
And we're gonna say no, so you lose your rights, and we could buy them.
I don't know if that would work though with Into the Spider-Verse though. It would have to fuck up those like any sequels or anything to that, which I would be really sad because that movie is so good.
We'll have to see. Okay, do you want to go into your normal segment that we do?
Yes.
Okay, so
Close. It's so close. It's 15 million away.
yeah, so
Even 15 million away.
worldwide here and worldwide there. 15 million. It's close. It is a lot closer than I thought it would be.
It's a lot closer than anyone thought it would be this week. It had a stellar week. This entire week. It didn't drop below $500,000.
Like, people were actually really amazed when they're like, hey, domestic box office has raised it to over 800 million. And people are like, really? That's not possible. That can't be.
No, but it did that. I did that a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, it's gonna do it. I called it. Everyone last week was like, "Oh, it's not enough to do it."
I mean, you're still raising the horn on things like this, but like we don't really know. Still, there's still some time. We still
There's
have
still some time, but it still made what another 3 million this weekend.
So in a month and a half, maybe we'll
Weekends wise, well, I would say less than that. I'd give it like, okay, maybe a month and a half. Yeah,
Okay.
month and a half, it could pass it.
Okay.
Which it could leave it in theaters for that long.
So we'll see. In a month and a half, we'll see if finally Avengers Endgame can beat Avatar as the highest grossing movie of all time.
It fucking deserves it.
Never mind. It's one thing that I always find hilarious. So, I'm not going to try and pick a fight with you here, Dev. However, highest grossing is such a weird way to measure a film based off of inflation. Like, 10 years difference, money's not worth much. We go back to, like, Titanic. That made a lot of money. That's, like, the 4th highest grossing movie of all time right now.
Yeah, but doesn't box office adjust for inflation?
I don't think they do. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know at all.
Does box office Mojo just for inflation? Adjusted for inflation, it's not the best opening weekend. You know what the best opening weekend adjusted for inflation is?
I want to hear it. Please tell me.
Gone with the Wind. 1939.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay.
Star Wars is a close second.
There's your segment. 15 million away. Dev thinks a month and a half we'll have it. And we're going to keep constantly updating you until Avengers leaves the theaters, I guess.
Until Avengers either leaves or it passes.
One of
Those are the two. One of those two things.
So now, I have 2 things I wanted to talk about with my news.
All right.
News thing number 1. It's an article from Variety called "Summer Box Office Meltdown" and why the movie business is running scared. So,
well, it doesn't help that the films this year have kind of been garbage.
That's exactly what this whole article is about. It's talking about how this summer season has been awful for movies. And the only reason I wanted to bring this article up is because it makes me feel better. Like, I have low opinions of myself. Even though I constantly berate these movies all the time, every time I think to myself, I wonder what real film critics think. And a lot of film critics agree with us. These movies are pretty bad.
This year, but no, it's been weird because usually I'm much more defensive of films. But this year, there have been several weeks where I'm like, I can't even fucking defend this at all.
Like this thing talks about all the movies that, like, we've seen all the movies that this thing mentions. Like, it talks about Toy Story 4, John Wick 3, Avengers being the biggest movies, Jurassic World falling flat back when it came out.
Was that this year?
I don't think it was this year.
It was last year.
Yeah, back when it came out, it was. It's comparing it to last summer.
Year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank God.
And then it was
like,
also,
I know we saw that.
Yeah. And then it was also talking about Godzilla, Men in Black, Dark Phoenix, all of these.
Oh, God.
And it's also comparing it to television series. They're also saying that TV nowadays is really good, and it's making it less convincing to go out to see movies. People are saying, quoting shows like Game of Thrones, Big Little Lies, and Stranger Things.
Well, yeah, no, TV's killing it right now. We live in a golden era of TV.
It's a problem. There are way too many good TV shows, which I love it. It's a good problem to have, but it's hard to be a social media person who talks about things and relates to people when there's too much TV and media to consume.
I don't make that part of my criteria of who I am.
Well, seeing as it's the only thing I stream regularly is judging movies, I feel like I should also judge TV at some point.
Fair. I've given up on trying to keep up. It's impossible. I just binge watch when I can occasionally, like seasons of stuff. Like, I'm currently going through One Piece. I just got done with one of the longest arcs. Finally got done with it. I might take a small break from that.
I'm on the wrong screen.
Next up, I'll finish Supergirl up until I get to one of the crossovers, and then go through DC's Legends of Tomorrow, get up to the crossover, watch that crossover for all 4 shows finally. Maybe I'll watch Stranger Things. Like, there's too much shit that I want to watch. And, like, I still need to catch up on Supernatural because I've committed to that show.
Yeah, I'm not even going to start that show.
I don't blame you. It's not me insulting the quality of the show. It's just more me saying that, like, fucking 17 seasons, I think.
Yeah, there's a commitment that I'm not willing to take. Like, you're watching One Piece. If I was to start watching One Piece, I would start from the beginning. And there's absolutely no way that I'm going to spend that much time binge watching 1,030 episodes of One Piece.
It's not really 1,030 episodes. It's not really that.
Look it up on Crunchyroll and see how many they have available right now.
Yes, but you have to remember that they have the re-edited versions on there as well.
They have 1,105 videos.
Yeah, okay, but if you go to the actual... Hold on, let me go down to fucking One Piece. Give me a second.
Holy fuck.
Let me go down to this season.
Oh, they have special edition where they have an extra... Oh, yeah.
They have it re-edited to being better quality.
So they have 1, 2...
And then it probably also counts the movies. So, in reality, there's only... Let me go down.
There are...
892 episodes.
Still. That's way too many shows for me to catch.
Cut out filler. You should cut out filler. I will straight up that. If it's straight up just a filler episode, skip it. Don't worry about it.
There.
If it's filler mixed with manga / canon to the show, then watch it.
If it's one of those filler episodes where they're supposed to be fighting, but they spend about 20 minutes talking to each other, you should still watch that episode.
Yes, because it's still technically part of it.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of those things that, like, I just started because I watched the first bit of it as a kid, and didn't realize how far back I fell off the wagon.
It keeps going, man. Is it still airing new season episodes?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it just came out with a new episode recently.
Oh God.
I'll catch up eventually, but it's one of those things that I'm gonna watch in segments. Like, I'm not gonna binge watch 2 full series at a time.
Yeah, I ended up
I wouldn't survive.
Yeah, I ended up having to binge watch 2 animes. Like, I used that Crunchyroll subscription at the last minute that I got from Amazon or from Twitch Prime, and I ended up watching 2 anime series. And now that those are done with, I might actually start streaming again. Now that I'm not committed to a show right now, I can.
Well, like for me, there's also live action that I want to watch, but it's not the most important thing to me anymore.
Yeah, it's difficult. All right.
There's no offense. There are certain tropes and something. And well, getting back to the topic, the problem is that we have hour-long TV shows that do a lot of the stuff that movies do over a lot more extended time, creating better like stories.
Okay. Yes, you're right. Oh, I have one more bit of news here, by the way. So once we get into this, we'll switch to that, and then we're done. But I just hope that these next couple of movies coming out this year are just going to step up the game of what's been happening, because, yeah, these movies lately this summer, not very good.
No.
TV's pretty good, so if they want to keep making money, they got to step up their game. So I guess
I don't know if this year's gonna be able to cap it out well enough.
I'm sure something will come out by the end of the year that'll be nice.
Well, I'm gonna say that isn't typical film. Like, that isn't like a film that you expect to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I will say it'll be harder.
Okay.
Because like there's Quentin Tarantino's film comes out this end of the month.
Yep.
You expect that to be good. Lion King, even though I feel like it's going to be, it's like I'm not looking forward to Lion King. I'm being honest.
It's gonna be. Ultimately, it's going to be fine, but I can already... My predetermined assumption of myself is I'm going to enjoy the parts that I see, but I'm going to feel hollow because it's ultimately the exact same story we've seen before.
Yes. And in all honesty, I'd rather, like... it's going to feel hollow due to the fact that it's CGI.
Oh, yeah.
While, like, a movie like Aladdin, or if you didn't see the trailer for Mulan drop today...
Next news.
Good segue. You're welcome. They look more real, and they look able to kind of create a more interesting story based off of the source material that they're working with. And Aladdin kind of proved that. Like, we enjoyed... Aladdin wasn't better than the animated, in my opinion.
No.
But it was enjoyable.
Mm.
It didn't feel exactly hollow.
It only had one kind of weird thing in it, and otherwise it was great.
Yes.
So,
A Mulan trailer.
The Mulan trailer. So yeah, for those of you who didn't know, about 4 or 5 hours ago, Mulan. Well, no, I guess technically, yeah, 5 hours ago, the teaser trailer for Mulan was released, and I would say let's watch it together, but that's not really doable with our setup.
I mean, I could pull it up. I've already watched it. I'll admit this.
So yeah, everyone prepared. Everyone ready to see the live-action Mulan that's going to be coming out soon? Like, it's going to be great. It releases... I saw a date. Where'd it go? March 27th.
March 27th.
So, next March. We're watching Mulan.
Yeah. I mean, It looks interesting. I'm curious of what they're going to do with the source material and with certain characters going to be in it and stuff like that. So we'll see.
We'll definitely see. Oh, that looks pretty. I want to just play 1 second of it. That does look pretty. Okay. So, yeah, that was the only other thing I wanted to talk about, was just to announce that, yes, there's going to be a Mulan.
Oh, there's other news.
Ooh.
They announced the casting for Ariel, which caused a ton of controversy.
That's right. I forgot about that. So.
Wow, holy shit, man.
Yeah, let me pull that up real fast.
Why? There was 2 things that happened from this. There are people who were wondering why Halle Berry...
It's not Halle Berry, though.
I know. It's Halle Bailey.
Here.
Was cast in that role. I don't know. People are weird and don't pay attention to spellings, I guess.
It's because people don't understand that there's more than just one famous celebrity named Halle or Haley, how she pronounces her name. And people are being ignorant and dumb.
Sort of like they're being to the reaction to someone being cast in this role. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like, how in the world is it okay for people to say that it is... I can't even comprehend what I want to say because I'm so frustrated with people. Like, there is nothing wrong with who's being cast with this person. Like, why are people such racist assholes, man? That's all it boils down to. I'm an asshole, but even I know when other people are being stupid assholes.
Yeah, no, and I agree. It's very stupid, the reaction to it. That people are like, oh, that's not my Ariel. I'm just like, dude, come on.
We deserve a true to color Ariel that I grew up with as a white princess girl. Damn
I'm sorry, but there are so many already. If you're looking for a redhead, there's already a princess redhead that's huge in Disney right now.
She's pretty brave
Anna.
from what I've heard, too.
Oh, yeah, well, it's Brave as well, but I'm talking about Anna from Frozen as well. Brave didn't do as well. I'm sorry. It's a good close second. But the fact that you're saying there isn't redhead representation in Disney, I'm sorry, but have you seen Disney?
I
There's
saw
like a stereotypically a redhead in almost every fucking Disney film.
I really liked something. It was people using like ecology and understanding of sea life and explaining how this casting makes more sense than having a white actress play Ariel. And they mentioned like Sebastian speaking with a Jamaican accent, and they mentioned like the species of fish like flounder is often found near the tip of southern Africa, and like that's it. I'm just flipping tables. People are dumb. Oh.
Agreed.
What was the other what was the other big problem with news recently where someone was it Heimdall? Him being cast by a black actor at one point had people angry.
No, yeah, Heimdall was one of them, and another one was Johnny Storm. Michael B. Jordan played him.
Yes. That one only kind of makes sense to me because the Storms don't even look like they're siblings. But
well, my thing was that like my only thing was like I would have liked to see that family dynamic of talking about, you know,
Mom
the fact
and Dad.
that like yes, but instead they just killed off Mom.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, but I wanted to see like the Johnny Storm, Sue Storm family dynamic, you know, about okay.
Nope.
But that also shows my problems with the fact that I had way higher hopes from Fan 4 Stick or Fan 4.
You're not wrong. That's just what it's called. It's Fan 4 Stick.
Fan Fuck Stick. Fan fucked it. I had way higher expectations for that film than what it even came to. So, like, me trying to be like, oh, maybe they'll go into family dynamics and talk about this kind of stuff and, you know, hard hitting questions and stuff. And instead, they just shat all over the entire franchise.
But at least
that was just a different expectation from me.
Mm-hmm.
This just makes sense. I don't know. It's a fucking mermaid.
Yeah, that's
It's a mermaid.
also it's a mermaid. How the hell is there? Oh, whatever. We're done with this. People are dumb.
So I just saw a fucking hilarious thing. You know who Little Nas is?
Yes. Yes.
Who did Old Town Road?
Mm-hmm.
He just posted a picture as we're talking about this on Twitter, being like, "Hear me out," and it's him, and then a picture of Hercules next to him.
Oh God, really? Let me see if I can find it real fast. Oh nope. I don't follow him on Twitter. Nope, not gonna find that.
Just type LILNASX. And little thing next to his check mark is nope.
Say that one more time.
LILNASX.
I got two of those mixed up. There it is.
Literally, as we were talking, he posted that.
Yeah.
Good timing.
Pretty good timing. Hear me out. Cute. That's cute.
But yeah. People are making a problem out of something that shouldn't be a problem. That's essentially what's happened.
It's exactly what's happened. So,
So
I haven't got any other news unless you do.
nope, I have no more news as well.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk about what our plans are for next week, which
Woo!
I think is the week you're going to hate the most.
Fuck, I just remember what it is.
We're headed on down, continuing our tour of movies. We're going on down to LA and then later back up to Florida because we're going to watch Sharknado and Crawl next week. Dev's upset about Sharknado.
No, I'm upset I suggested Crawl.
Yes, this is all your fault.
I didn't suggest. Okay, I'll say this. I didn't suggest Crawl.
It was just
I said
one of the
Crawl
two.
comes out next week, so we can skip it maybe next week. And then you're like, you know what? What if we did that and Sharknado?
Because-
I'm like, motherfucker, I can't fight you on this one.
Because you know
Why?
I could be really close to what's gonna happen here.
I wish we would have just gone with Stuber. God damn it.
I mean, in retrospect, I've been seeing things about Stuber, and I'm like, huh, that seems kind of cute now. But I think this week will be funny. We're gonna be.
I'm gonna be fucking miserable.
Yes. We can have a movie night where we invite all of Dork Nation to watch Sharknado with us. And then we'll watch Crawl and be sad. Sound like a plan for everybody next week?
Fine. Fucking hate this. I hate this. I hate this so much.
It's gotta be fine.
Fuck you.
You and your button that you haven't used in a while.
Fuck you.
All right. I've got nothing else. So I guess Dev's gonna put in the YouTube. the command. There we go. So yeah, check out our YouTube where we upload all of these videos. Follow us on Twitter. Check out our new Discord because we're inviting people to that now.
Well, that's really obnoxious when we have it here.
Yeah, I need to fix this screen. I was like, we don't have comments on this
noticed
screen.
that.
Like, I added these comments today, and I was like, I'm just going to put them here for now. It'll be fine, and I'll figure it out later, because I realized I hadn't had them on the screen yet.
I mean, it's fine not to have it on this screen. It's the closing out.
It's also the grand opening as well.
Oh.
It's like right after, this is the screen that I go to right after, hello everybody, but before talking about what's happening. So, either way, yeah. Discord, Twitter, YouTube. Check out the channel. Now on Tuesdays, we have Third Player Optional at 6 p.m. with Gaming Caver and Torn. Caver J, not Gaming Caver. My apologies. Caver J. I keep, every once in a while.
Still making
It's
that
just a
mistake.
slip. It really is. Like, I don't know why. It's not even every single time I talk to him. Then we also have the Thursdays. We have the Har Har podcast at 6 p.m. Yeah, whatever.
And starting not this week, but next week, Hardcore Game Night.
But we still need to figure out what game we're playing.
Thanks for announcing that to the world.
It's to get the world to pressure us and to make decisions. Obviously, my pressure was barely enough. So
What do you think I was planning on doing today, you jackwagon?
all right. Thank you everybody for joining us. And before we get off topic again, we're gonna leave here. So bye everybody. We'll see you next time for, I guess us being critically casual and, snakes and sharks and alligators and, lots and lots of death and things.
Terrible movies.
Maybe. Bye, everyone.
Ah!